True Digital Park ศูนย์กลางเทคและสตาร์ทอัพที่ใหญ่ที่สุดในอาเซียนตอบโจทย์ Work Lifestyle ครบทุกมิติออฟฟิศตกแต่งครบติด BTS คุณวิถีสวัสดีครับทุกวันนี้การค้าขายของโลกเราเนี่ยเติบโตเยอะมากเลยนะฮะมีการขยายตัวอย่างมากเลยทีเดียวแล้วก็สิ่งที่มันเกิดขึ้นก็คือว่ามันมีทั้งการแข่งขันที่สูงขึ้นนะครับแล้วก็มีโอกาสที่เพิ่มมากขึ้นด้วยหนึ่งในสิ่งที่วันนี้ผมอยากจะมาชวนทุกท่านมาพูดคุยกันเนี่ยนะฮะคือเรื่องของ Crossborder e-commerce e-commerce เฉยๆเนี่ยเราคุ้นเคยกันดีอยู่แล้วแต่ว่า Crossborder e-commerce เนี่ยคืออะไรนะฮะแล้วมันเป็นโอกาสที่ใหญ่มากขนาดไหนที่ประเทศไทยโดยเฉพาะ SME ไทยเนี่ยควรจะต้องให้ความสนใจอย่างมากเลยเนี่ยนะครับเวลาจะคุยเรื่อง Crossborder e-commerce เนี่ยก็คงจะไม่มีใครที่สามารถที่จะตอบคำถามเรื่องนี้ได้ดีไปกว่าคนของ Amazon นะครับแพลตฟอร์ม e-commerce ที่ใหญ่ที่สุดในโลกนะฮะวันนี้เนี่ยเรามีแขกรับเชิญพิเศษมากๆเลยจริงๆนะครับที่ต้องบอกว่าจะมาตอบทุกคำถามเลยที่เกี่ยวกับเรื่องของ Crossborder e-commerce ว่าถ้าอยากทำยังไงทำแล้วทำยังไงถึงจะประสบความสำเร็จนะครับมันจะต้องมีกระบวนการในการทำยังไงบ้างนะครับแล้ววิธีคิดของ Crossborder e-commerce เป็นยังไงนะครับวันนี้ผมยินดีต้อนรับคุณเจมี่ เบรนนันนะครับเป็น Head of Amazon Global Selling Thailand นะครับสวัสดีคุณเจมี่ครับสวัสดีครับคุณเจมี่ครับ so let's jump right into the question about cross-border selling and stuff. I think a lot of people, I mean, we are very familiar with e-commerce, right? Because we have used it almost every day these days. But cross-border e-commerce, what is the difference?
I'm so glad you asked that question. And thank you so much for having me here today. It is such an honor to be here. So,
Same here.
What is amazingly different between e-commerce and cross-border e-commerce is really the border, right? So, just like e-commerce, cross-border e-commerce, and retail, you're considering the same three things. Mm-hmm. So you always have, who is your customer? Where am I going to sell my items? And how am I going to get those items to the customer, right? So we've got customers, location, logistics. So the logistics part for cross-border is the one that people tend to get really confused about, but that's why Amazon will help you. You have to get your items out of your country and into another country to be sold. Okay. So in order to do that, you can use air cargo, you can use shipping, whatever you would prefer. But it is fairly simple. It's very much like e-commerce here. Secondly, the marketplace. How are you going to sell it? One of the great things about cross-border and about e-commerce is that you are not having to look for an actual location to sell things. You don't have to have a physical footprint. You don't have to have a store. Instead, you can find millions of customers across the globe just by having one place online. And so for us in the Amazon, so from your home in Thailand, you can sell to people all over the world through the Amazon. Absolutely most important to every seller, and most importantly to Amazon, is our customer. We are a customer obsessed company. And so we have over 300 million customers. And the difference between retail and e-commerce here in Thailand is that when you're doing e-commerce in Thailand, you are only selling to people in Thailand. When you are doing cross-border e-commerce with Amazon, you're selling to 300 million people globally. So you can sell to people in North America, Europe, Singapore, Japan, Australia, the EU, the list goes on and on and on. So the biggest difference, if I had to really cement it down into the biggest difference between e-commerce and cross-border e-commerce, is that there are so many more potential customers for you than there ever could be in one single country. And that's what makes it so exciting.
cross-border e-commerce นะครับจริงๆก็คือชัดเจนนะคำว่า border ก็เป็น definition ที่ชัดเจนก็คือเราข้ามไปสู่อีกประเทศหนึ่งต่างๆนานาเหล่านี้เนี่ยนะฮะซึ่งมันก็มีหลายเรื่องมีเรื่องcustomer location logistics พาร์ท logistics เนี่ยจะเป็นพาร์ทที่คนอาจจะกังวลนิดนึงนะฮะเวลาไปเพราะว่ามันก็อาจจะรู้สึกว่ามันจะไปยังไงของจะเป็นยังไงไปถึงที่นู่นแล้วจะเป็นยังไงต่อแต่จริงๆแล้วเนี่ย Amazon เนี่ยมาเพื่อช่วยเรื่องนี้เลยนะครับซึ่งถ้าเกิดว่าเราลองนึกภาพแบบนี้เนี่ยมันจะทำให้เราเห็นว่าตลาดของเราเนี่ยมันใหญ่ขึ้นเยอะมากเพราะว่าลูกค้า Amazon เนี่ยมีอยู่ทั่วโลกนะฮะไม่ใช่เฉพาะในสหรัฐอเมริกาแต่ว่าในยุโรปในที่ต่างๆนานามากมายการที่เราสามารถเอาของเราไปขายได้เนี่ยก็เปิดโอกาสให้กับสินค้าของเราอย่างมากเลยนะครับมากกว่าการขายอยู่ในประเทศ so let's dig down to details a little bit so when we do cross borders the process of doing it and the opportunities for it I think it probably not this exactly the same as selling just right into the e-commerce here in Thailand. But what are the opportunities and process that you need to go through?
So one of the things that I find is super interesting. So in my prior to Amazon times, I actually worked in local e-commerce in Thailand. So when we talk about cross-border, let's just take the United States for example, because it's easier to go with one concrete example, right? So when you're preparing to go cross-border from Thailand to the United States, there are some things that you need to do. You need to get your paperwork right. You need to get better marketing in English. This is incredibly important, right?
Right.
It's very important to have English language to get into cross-border. But the real benefit of this, I think, that is often overlooked by some of our more first-timer entrepreneurs is that you can actually use those same English translations to sell inside of Thailand as well. So when you're making this investment to go cross-border, to expand globally, you're actually doubling down on your existing investment here in Thailand as well. This is one of the incredibly unique opportunities that I feel like is so overlooked. If you look at local marketplaces as well, if you're using English, you're able to access a significant amount of the expat community. So in North America, the North American consumer spends nearly double online as the average global consumer. So the American consumer spends about $850 per month online shopping. That is way larger than anywhere else. But the really interesting thing, and I say this as an American consumer myself living in Thailand, even though I live here, I still spend that same amount of money online because we are trained to do online shopping as the most easy and convenient way. So when you invest in better marketing in the US, when you invest in better packaging for the EU, you are able to take that same information and use it here in Thailand to also increase your sales. So this is one really important opportunity that I think is often overlooked. Another thing is that when we look at e-commerce in general, everyone knows that because of the pandemic, that e-commerce has grown quite substantially. But what is incredibly interesting is that actual cross-border e-commerce has grown at more than double the pace in the last year. So compared of April 2019 to April 2020, it grew 2.3%. We expect that within the next 5 years, it's going to be approximately 20% of all e-commerce sales. That's huge. This is such an incredible opportunity. Another piece that I think is very, very interesting to think about cross-border is that according to the Bank of Thailand, we've seen a pretty substantial drop in the past 2 years for foreign direct investment. Now, that may sound like something that's a bit nerve-wracking, right? It's like, oh no, money's not coming in. But what that means is that you don't have these outside players using Thailand as a manufacturing base to then sell back to their countries. This gives our small to medium enterprises here in Thailand and our entrepreneurs an incredible opportunity to take back the means of brand ownership and the means of manufacturing to sell to global consumers. This time right now is one of the most exciting times to start a business in Thailand, in my personal opinion.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. ก็คุณเจมี่ก็เล่าให้ฟังนะครับบอกว่าโอเค cross border e-commerce มันก็จะมีเรื่องของเอกสารพวก paperwork อะไรนิดหน่อยที่ต้องทำนะครับแล้วก็เรื่องของ marketing แน่นอนต้องทำ marketing เป็นภาษาอังกฤษนะเพราะว่าเราจะไปขายให้กับคนทั่วโลกแต่สิ่งที่เป็น opportunity ใหญ่มากเลยก็คือว่าอย่างคนอเมริกันเนี่ยนะฮะใช้เงินประมาณ$850ต่อเดือนในการช้อปปิ้งออนไลน์ตอนที่อยู่ที่สหรัฐอเมริกาแต่ว่าอย่างแม้คุณเจมี่ยังมาที่เมืองไทยเองแล้วเนี่ยก็ยังคงใช้เงินจำนวนนั้นอยู่เพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยโอกาสมันกลับเข้ามาที่ประเทศไทยด้วยหมายถึงว่าพอทำมาร์เก็ตติ้งดีๆที่ต่างประเทศเนี่ยเรากลับมาที่เมืองไทยเราก็สามารถขายกับ expat หรือว่าคนที่เดินทางมาทำงานอยู่ที่นี่เนี่ยได้เช่นกันนะครับอันนั้นเป็นโอกาสอันหนึ่งนะครับอีกอันคือ cross border e-commerce เนี่ยโตเยอะมากในช่วงของโควิดคาดการว่า5ปีต่อจากนี้เนี่ยจะโตถึง20จะเป็นสัดส่วน 20% นะครับแล้วก็สุดท้ายซึ่งอันนี้เนี่ยผมต้องบอกว่าผมไม่เคยคิดถึงมุมนี้มาก่อนเลยเนี่ยนะฮะคือ2ปีที่ผ่านมาเนี่ย FDI คือ Foreign Direct Investment เนี่ยมันลดลงนะครับจริงๆมันลดลงมาเป็น10 ปีแล้วแต่ว่าช่วงหลังๆเนี่ยลดลงหนักมากนะครับคนไปลงทุนในประเทศอื่นเดี๋ยว Foreign Direct Investment ก็คือการที่นักลงทุนต่างชาติเอาเงินมาลงทุนสร้างโรงงานอะไรในเมืองไทยเนี่ยนะฮะแต่ว่าจริงๆแล้วมันเป็นโอกาสสำหรับโดยเฉพาะสำหรับ SME เพราะว่าตอนนี้เนี่ยคู่แข่งที่เป็นใหญ่ๆที่จะมาสร้างโรงงานเนี่ยก็ไม่ได้มาแล้วกลายเป็นว่าตอนนี้เนี่ย SME สามารถที่จะไปตีตลาดโลกแล้วเอาโอกาสนั้นกลับมาที่เมืองไทย so selling globally sounds like a a very good thing to do, and looks like a huge opportunity. But it has to be some process that you have to go through first, right? Before you can do that, because nothing can be that easy. So, what is Amazon Global Selling's role in all of this?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. It's one I recently learned myself. So I'm actually fairly new to the Amazon Global Selling team. I've only been here for about 3 months now. So I think as a new joiner, I can really explain this super well. What our team is doing here is helping to smooth the processes from moving to domestic to international. So there are lots of things that we want to help with, and I'm sure we'll get into lots of detailed questions about that later. But I'd say first and foremost, what we want to do is help solve the language barrier. So we surveyed 200 Thai sellers to do a report last year. 77% of Thai sellers said that the biggest inhibitor to them selling cross-border was language barrier. So we have done a lot of work on the team here into helping bridge that barrier so that people can actually take advantage of the system. So how that works is that means that we have allowed for submitting Thai language paperwork. So in order to sell on to Amazon and to sell internationally, there's a lot of paperwork involved, right? Just like there is in Thailand, if we're being honest. There's less stamps internationally, which is kind of nice. So there's a lot of paperwork, and so Amazon actually takes that Thai language paperwork and helps to submit it around the world for that process so that you can get the correct compliance. We also work on something that I find to be personally very fascinating, because I also have a background in product design. So we help you find the right product. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have a product that you think, wow, I think this would do really, really well in the EU, we actually give you tools to look at searches on Amazon that will tell you whether that product is of interest inside of the EU. You can use that same tool in the EU, in Japan, in the United States, in Australia. So if you have a product idea, you can find out whether the world really wants your product. Also, if you just know that you are really great at business, but you don't know what product yet, you can use those same search capabilities to find products that are missing all over the world. So you can either make your own opportunity or find your own opportunity. Either way, we're going to help you find that right product. And of course, there are always financial barriers. I think this is one of the ones that probably comes up the most. Now, I'm not going to pretend like starting to sell on Amazon is something that is free. It is an investment that has a great return, but we do partner with different organizations to help ease some of that. One of our great partnerships is with DITP, and they do grants for small to medium enterprises to help them get selling online. And then last, but certainly not least, the logistics piece. As someone who's moved internationally many, many times, logistics are complicated. We work really hard on 2 different areas to make that easier. So we have something called Fulfilled by Amazon. This means you just work with our team here locally, and then we will whisk the products away to the United States, get them into the fulfillment center for you, and do all of the last mile. But we also believe that there are some people here who have a deep entrepreneurial spirit that want to do everything themselves. We still want to support that. So we have something called the Merchant Fulfilled Network, where we help to introduce to different logistics suppliers that we know are familiar with the Amazon processes and can help you get started right away. So whether you have your own idea, whether you just know you're good at business, whether you have your own logistics, or whether you need support, we're here to help just smooth that process for you internationally. That's what we hope to do.
Okay, so first of all, it's of the language barriers and documents, which is very painful
for everyone. All the time.
For everyone, yes. And I love the product capability part. You can find whether this will work or not, right? So it's kind of like pre-screening, or whether where's the opportunity that I'm missing, right? And of course, financial. Everybody needs this, one way or another. And the logistics. You can also do the whole thing that please pick this up, and I'll get going with something else, or you can do some yourself by recommendation from Amazon, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So ผมมีคำถามว่าเรา Amazon Global Seller เนี่ยเขาช่วยอะไรบ้างเนี่ยนะครับเขาก็อันแรกที่สำคัญที่สุดเลยคือเรื่องภาษาเพราะว่าอย่างที่เราทราบกันนะเวลาเราทำพวกนี้เนี่ยเรื่องภาษา ตั้งแต่เอกสารตั้งแต่เรื่องของขอไอ้นู่นไอ้นี่เนี่ยนะครับโอ้โหมันเยอะมากนะครับที่นี่สามารถ submit เป็นภาษาไทยได้ซึ่งเป็นอะไรที่แบบโอ้โหยอดเยี่ยมมากเลยนะครับอันที่2เรื่องของการค้นหา product ที่ใช่หรือหาโอกาสของ product ที่ยังไม่มีนะครับเขามีเครื่องมือนะที่ช่วยว่าโอเคสมมติคุณคิดว่า product นี้มันเหมาะกับตลาดนี้เหมาะจริงไหมอันนี้เป็นคำถามที่เราต้องตอบให้ได้นะฮะเขามีเครื่องมือช่วยหรือตลาดนี้ยังมี product ไหนไหมที่มันยังพอจะเป็นโอกาสที่ยังไม่ได้ทำนะฮะอันที่3คือแน่นอนครับเรื่องเงินนะฮะก็ปฏิเสธไม่ได้หรอกครับคือจริงๆทุกอย่างมันก็มีค่าใช้จ่ายมีเงินเข้ามาเกี่ยวข้องนะครับแต่ว่าทาง Amazon Global Selling เนี่ยเขาก็มีพาร์ทเนอร์อย่างในเมืองไทยเนี่ยก็คือ DITP นะฮะDITP เนี่ยเขาก็จะมีเงินช่วยเหลือกับ SME อยู่แล้วนะครับแล้วก็สุดท้ายคือเรื่องของโลจิสติกนะฮะการขนของจากเมืองไทยไปสมมติสหรัฐอเมริกาเนี่ยในการทำงานจริงเนี่ยนะมันมีอะไรในนั้นเยอะมากเลยนะครับแต่ว่าเขาสามารถจัดการให้ได้แบบคุณไม่ต้องยุ่งเลยก็ได้นะฮะอันนั้นก็เป็นแบบนึงหรือถ้าเกิดคุณอยากจะจัดการเองบ้างบางส่วนหรืออยากจะหาโลจิสติกเองเนี่ยเขาก็มีคนที่แนะนำที่เข้าใจ process ของการทำงานกับ Amazon นะครับโอเค so the next question I think is one of the most important questions of the interview. I think a lot of us has going to Amazon website, which has about maybe trillion products in there.
Oh, thank you.
Like there's a lot of things going on in there, right? There's a huge. I mean, practically can find everything from everywhere. I think. And that is a fascinating thing about Amazon. But how can we, as a Thai product, find the opportunities or a place that we can stand, that people will want to find us or even see us as a seller?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. And I would say, even though Amazon has many, many products, we don't have your product yet, so we're certainly not done yet. So with that, the ways to stand out, they're not so very different on Amazon than what you would think for normal businesses. But figuring out how to use them is a little bit different, especially if you're new to online. So let's start with the first part, which I think is incredibly important. It's our training programs and the suite of tools that we have to get you ready. So when you first start, similar to what we talked about with logistics, we have some tools that are designed where we help guide you through the process. And then we also have tools that are designed where you can just find all your own information all on your own. So we have our rocket launcher and our jumpstart programs that are designed to get you moving through the process very quickly to find the opportunity. And we also have something called Seller University. Seller University is the entire world of Amazon, whatever you wanted to know. Do you want to understand better how taxes work in Germany? Do you want to understand better how our advertising works? How to get product reviews? We have modules on how to do all of that, all that we're working on getting in Thai. The vast majority of this information is already available in Thai language, and we have seller support in Thai to help answer questions and guide you through the process. Additionally, Amazon, one of the things that I absolutely love is that we have a suite of internal advertising tools. So we will always say that it is great to do advertising outside of Amazon, especially in the specific countries that you're targeting. But more importantly, we have things like sponsored product search, we have display advertising, and we also have something called the buy box, which is how you can use the internal systems inside of Amazon to make sure that you are available to have a very special, like flashier box that says to buy now. With these tools and Seller University, you can make sure that you are finding the right customer at the right time. And I really can't stress enough, the advertising tools are so important. Just like you don't expect to have a shop next to 7-Eleven and have people come into your shop all the time because everyone knows 7-Eleven. When you're a new product, it's important to put a sign out in front of your product. And the way that you do that on Amazon is through sponsored product search. This is exceptionally important and really easy to get started with. So that's what I would say is one of the most important things. And then The other piece that I would say is once you've got your first product really nailed, there's some great sellers here in Thailand that started with just one product. And over time, they realized they had done the important work. They had found the customer base. They had figured out how to use advertising. Then they went back to those product tools we talked about and found new ways to expand their product line. We have people that focus on just one category, like home goods, which is very, very popular. Or we have something called a mass seller. So maybe they started in home goods and then they went into luggage and into jewelry, which are some of our other popular categories. So these are the ways that we want to help you not just find your customer right now, but find the future customer that you could have also.
Um, บทบาทของAmazon Global Selling เนี่ยครับจริงมีหลากหลายมากเขาเริ่มมีการตั้งแต่เทรนนิ่งผมเชื่อว่าหลายท่านคุ้นเคยกับโปรแกรมที่ชื่อว่า Rocket Launcher กับ Jumpstart โปรแกรมนะฮะแล้วเขาก็มี Seller University ด้วยซึ่งในนั้นเนี่ยจะมีข้อมูลทุกอย่างที่คุณต้องการจะรู้ส่วนใหญ่ได้แปลเป็นไทยแล้วด้วยนะครับซึ่งเป็นเรื่องที่ดีมากเช่นสมมุติอยากรู้เรื่องภาษีนะครับอยากรู้เรื่องว่าการทำงานของรีวิวเป็นยังไงนะ Amazon Review นี่ก็เป็นเรื่องสำคัญมากนะครับอะไรแบบนี้นะฮะมันก็จะมีดีเทลต่างๆนานามากมายคือถ้าสมมติว่านึกไม่อะไรไม่ออกเนี่ยเวลาเข้าไปในเว็บปุ๊บเนี่ยแล้วเราอยากรู้ตรงส่วนไหนว่าเนี่ยมันทำงานยังไงเราอยากจะอยู่ตรงนี้บ้างเป็นยังไงจะทำยังไงเนี่ยสามารถเข้าไปดูข้อมูลตรงนี้ได้แต่ว่าสิ่งที่เจ๋งมากเลยคือเขาเรียกว่าเป็น internal advertising suite แล้วกันผมใช้คำนี้แล้วกันก็คือเป็นเครื่องมือในการโฆษณานะครับ one quick question I heard that a lot of people they just jump into Amazon and search in there for the product, right? Not coming from other search engine. They just jump in there, right? Yeah. So the mechanic of searching in there is also kind of like an internal advertising. Right?
Exactly. This is one of the reasons why the way you create your listing is so important. The same way that you optimize for Google search engine, you can optimize on Amazon. It's incredibly important to look at how your product is listed and what search results it comes up as. Because brand name searches are great, but they only work if you're as big as 7-Eleven.
Right,
the people have to know your name. But yes, searching on Amazon is one of the best ways to have your product found. And then once the product is found, like let's say you're searching for socks. I love to use socks as an example because kids' socks show up everywhere. So you search for socks and you see 6 to 10 listings of children's socks. But you can do things to get the buy box. You can do things to make sure that your listing is easy to read and very clear. These things will really help draw in the customers from that search page.
ครับโอเคต่อจากเมื่อกี้คือเครื่องมือในการโฆษณาเนี่ยเป็นเรื่องที่สำคัญมากๆเป็น internal ของ Amazon เองนะครับก็จะมีตั้งแต่แบบที่เราคุ้นเคยกันเป็น display ขึ้นมาหรือว่าเป็น buy box ต่างๆนานาพวกนี้เนี่ยแต่ว่าการเข้าใจถึงเรื่องเครื่องมือนี้เนี่ยเป็นเรื่องที่จะทำให้เราขายได้เพราะว่าเราลองนึกภาพเนาะเวลาคนเข้ามาซื้อของเนี่ยครับเขาก็จะ search อย่างเมื่อกี้คุณเจมี่ยกตัวอย่างถุงเท้าเด็กอะไรแบบเนี้ยคุณทำ search quality ดีแค่ไหนอ่ะมันก็จะช่วยให้โอกาสที่ลูกค้าจะเห็นของเราเพิ่มมากขึ้นเท่านั้นนะครับการที่ถ้าเราไม่ใช่เป็นแบรนด์ใหญ่มากเนี่ยนะเขาจะไม่ได้มา search แบบ search ชื่อแบรนด์เราเลยเนี่ยนี่เอาโอกาสยากเพราะฉะนั้นการ search มาจาก product เนี่ยมันต้องมีกระบวนการอันเนี้ยต้องเรียนรู้ต้องให้เวลานะครับแล้วก็เป็นเรื่องที่สำคัญมากๆใครทำได้ดีกว่าเรื่องนี้นะครับอันเนี้ยมันจะช่วยให้ product เนี่ยมีโอกาสที่จะขายได้มากกว่าอีกจุดหนึ่งที่น่าสนใจก็คือว่าหลายคนเริ่มต้นจากแค่1 product เท่านั้นชิ้นเดียวเลยนะฮะแบบ1อย่างเท่านั้นแล้วก็ทำความเข้าใจอาจจะมีการลองผิดลองถูกพอ product มันติดปุ๊บเข้าใจว่าระบบทั้งหมดมันทำงานยังไงแล้วเนี่ยเดี๋ยว product ที่2 3 4ตามมานะครับก็เป็นโอกาสที่สำคัญมากๆเลยทีเดียวนะครับokay I love this one myths we all have it everywhere right and for cross-border e-commerce when we say cross-border, people start to get nervous and a little bit jumpy of like, we have to do like taxes or we have to do like warehouse or everything. So I think there's a lot of myth that going around with cross-border. Can you address some of that and then maybe, kind of tell us that it is not what people believe it is to be?
I think you're absolutely right. There's so many myths about cross-border. The one that always makes me so surprised is that people believe that you can only do cross-border if you are a wholesaler or you're doing retail. So if you're selling into retailers in another country. But this is absolutely not true. Now, if you want to sell wholesale, that's great, but it means that you're dependent on so many other people. However, through Amazon, we fulfill all of the pieces that you would need that a wholesaler could provide for you. So we can help you with the logistics, with the warehousing, with the last mile to the customer. You can start with just your idea and one product, and you can go international with us. So you don't have to worry about the wholesaling. You don't have to worry about those particular licenses for wholesaling, which were quite complicated. The second one is that you can't do cross-border if you're not a brand owner. Now, I think brand owners are fantastic. There's a lot of really interesting stuff that brand owners do, but there are also a lot of people who are not interested in creating a brand. They just want to make a really good product. Those people are absolutely able to sell on Amazon right away. What customers are really looking for, especially in cross-border e-commerce, is to find the right product that fits their need. It's not necessarily a brand. Brand recognition is mostly from large-scale advertising, or if you build your brand over time through reputation. And that's what we're allowing people to do. You can either build your brand reputation over time, or you can start with just a great product and build a reputation for that product. That is one of the things that I think is exceptionally important for people to note, that they really can do this. Anyone can start with a good idea and sell on Amazon. Oh, and then the other one that I find to be so fascinating is that people believe they can only sell cross-border if they're professionals, like if they already know everything. Selling cross-border is a learning experience for everyone. Even at my past experiences working in international companies and in Thai companies, even if you think you know everything, and I was obviously hired as an executive professional in these companies, you still have to learn things every time. So it's okay to not know everything. Between your natural ability to just figure things out, because humans are so great at that, we also have the tools that prepare you for it. You can start right out of university or right into your second career, going straight into selling on Amazon, and we will help educate you every step of the way so that you are never really alone. Unless you want to be, we're not gonna bother you if you want to be left alone. But we're here to help if you want. And then the other thing that I think is probably super interesting and maybe will be a concern for a lot of people here in Thailand is that you do not have to have an overseas bank account to do cross-border. You can if you want. There's many different ways to do it, but you don't have to. There's payment gateways, remittance organizations, all of these things that are set in place to make this simpler. Opening up a bank account in another country can be very complicated.
Yeah.
It took me a little while to figure it out here in Thailand. And I'm still not sure I've closed out my one in Singapore. So I don't think that anyone should have to worry about those things. You don't have to be a wholesaler. You don't have to be a professional. You don't have to be a brand owner. And you don't have to have an overseas bank account. All of those things are not important. What is the most important is that you have an idea and that you pursue it with great passion. That passion will help guide you into learning things. It will help you keep solving problems, and it will make sure that you are successful. That is what really matters.
I love this. Passion will guide you to all those learning process, which sometimes can be a little bit difficult and you will struggle a little bit. But if you are very passionate about what you are doing, you get through it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Alright สิ่งที่มีความเข้าใจผิดแล้วกันนะฮะเกี่ยวกับการขาย cross border ที่มักเป็นความเข้าใจผิดแบบ common FAQ แล้วกันนะใช้คำนี้เพราะว่าคงจะมีหลายอันแต่ว่านี้เรายกอันที่เป็นประเด็นใหญ่ๆขึ้นมานะครับอันที่หนึ่งก็คือว่าคนจำนวนมากเข้าใจว่าจะต้องมี warehouse คือต้องมีที่เก็บอยู่ที่ต่างประเทศซึ่งอันนี้ไม่ต้องนะฮะอันนี้ Amazon เขาจัดการให้ทั้งหมดอยู่แล้วนะครับอันที่สองคนเข้าใจว่าต้องเป็น wholesaler หรือว่าเป็น retailer อยู่แล้วเช่นเป็นคนขายส่งอะไรอย่างเงี้ยซึ่งอันนี้ก็ไม่จริงอีกนะครับเราสามารถที่จะขายสินค้า1ตัวแบบที่เราอยากจะขายได้นะครับอันที่3เนี่ยเราต้องเป็นเจ้าของแบรนด์นี่คือมีสิ่งที่คนเชื่อนะฮะคนเชื่อว่าเราต้องเป็นเจ้าของแบรนด์หรือเปล่านะครับในความเป็นจริงคือคุณไม่จำเป็นต้องเป็นเจ้าของแบรนด์ก็ได้นะถ้าคุณไม่อยากจะทำแบรนด์แล้วรู้สึกว่าหรือยังไม่ถึงเวลาทำเนี่ยคุณทำของที่มันมีคุณภาพดีมากๆแล้วเดี๋ยวตัว product มันขายได้แล้วมันค่อยๆเติบโตไปเป็นอย่างอื่นได้ในอนาคต ก็สามารถเป็นไปได้เช่นกันดังนั้นไม่จำเป็นที่จะต้องว่าฉันจะต้องมีแบรนด์ก่อนฉันต้องโฆษณาก่อนฉันถึงจะต้องไปขายใน Amazon ได้นะครับอีกหัวข้อหนึ่งซึ่งนี่ผมชอบมากก็คือว่าคนจะรู้สึกว่าไอ้ e-commerce ที่มันมีความซับซ้อนนะสมมุติว่าไปใช้พวก tools ต่างๆในอย่างที่เราพูดไปเมื่อกี้คือเรื่อง advertising tools ต่างๆเราจะต้องเป็นแบบ professional ก่อนหรือเปล่าแบบจะต้องทำอยู่ในสายงานนี้มาฉันจะต้องเป็น professional e-commerce ต้องแบบรู้จัก performance marketing อะไรอย่างนี้หรือเปล่าถึงจะไปขายได้ซึ่งในความเป็นจริงก็ไม่ใช่อีกเช่นกันนะครับคุณสามารถที่จะทำแบบที่คุณอาจจะยังไม่รู้อะไรเยอะนะฮะแล้วก็คุณเจมี่เขาบอกว่าเนี่ยมันคือ process ของการเรียนรู้ซึ่งผมเห็นด้วยมากมันคือ learning มันต้องค่อยๆทำไปด้วยกันนะแบบว่าทำแล้วก็เรียนรู้ปรับกันไปนะครับคืออันนี้ท่านพูดในฐานะคนทำ marketing เนี่ยนะของพวกนี้เนี่ยมันเปลี่ยนแทบทุกอาทิตย์นะฮะคือหมายถึงว่าสิ่งที่เรารู้เมื่ออาทิตย์ที่แล้วเนี่ยอาทิตย์นี้จะใช้ไม่ได้แล้วดังนั้นเนี่ยมันก็คือ process มันคือการเรียนรู้นะครับแล้วก็ข้อสุดท้ายซึ่งอาจจะเป็นเรื่องที่ทำให้หลายคนกังวลนะที่เข้าใจผิดนะฮะคือหลายคนคิดว่าไปขายของสมมุติที่สหรัฐอเมริกาเนี่ยฉันก็ต้องไปเปิดบัญชีที่นู่นใช่ไหมคำตอบคือไม่ใช่ครับไม่ต้องเพราะว่าเดี๋ยวนี้เนี่ยสามารถผ่าน payment gateway ต่างๆได้เพราะว่าการไปเปิดบัญชีแบงค์ที่อีกประเทศหนึ่งเนี่ยก็เป็นเรื่องที่ซับซ้อนพอสมควรเพราะฉะนั้นไม่ต้องทำนะฮะนี่ก็คือความเข้าใจผิดหลายอันนะครับวันนี้ก็เคลียร์ให้ว่าเป็นอะไรบ้างนะครับสิ่งที่คุณเจมี่บอกคือว่าขอให้คุณมีไอเดียมีอันนี้สำคัญมากแล้วคุณมี passion กับมันแล้วเดี๋ยวคุณจะผ่านมันไม่ได้เดี๋ยวคุณก็เรียนรู้เรื่องต่างๆเนี่ยแล้วก็คุณก็จะไปได้เองนะครับเพราะฉะนั้นก็เป็นเรื่องที่คนเข้าใจผิดเยอะนะฮะก็หวังว่าเรื่องนี้จะได้เคลียร์ประเด็นนี้ไปนะครับคุณเจมี่ครับ How do you see cross-border e-commerce evolving in the future?
But what I see as the most amazing thing about cross-border is that it's becoming so much more simple. So it's not an easily done process, but compared to what it was 5 years ago, it's so simple. So where I see the true evolving happening is that the processes between countries are going to become more and more simple. I also think that the gridlock that we've seen in logistics in the past 2 years because of the rapid expanse during COVID is starting to ease. We're getting a lot of organizations that are getting better at something that's called LCL, so less than the container load. So if you're a small to medium-sized company, you don't need to ship a giant cargo container. So we're seeing a lot of businesses really start to innovate in this area, where you can ship a small amount in a quick time. So the sellers are saving money on shipping and they're also getting a product done more efficiently through this system that was really kind of built for wholesalers. There's also some super interesting stuff that is happening in the definition of what is being looked for from each country. So we have here in Thailand's a very brand-oriented country. So you see everyone with their Hermes belts, their Louis Vuitton bags. These things are really important in Thailand. But in cross-border, nationalized and very specific brands are not going to be as important. Finding a really good product, that's going to be a growth area. And also people are finding a taste for travel through product that didn't exist before. So I know that we all are ready to return back to what we see as the normal from 3 years ago. But I think the reality is that the ease of travel, something that we take really, really for granted here in Southeast Asia, is not the case for people in a lot of countries like Australia. It's incredibly difficult to get out of Australia into other places. And so there's a lot more travel by purchase. Similar to how a lot of people buy Japanese snacks here in Thailand. It's like I can't make it to Japan during the Sakura festival, so I might as well get some really good Japanese snacks. People are going to be looking for products that make them feel like they have been somewhere or remind them of that. I think that'll be a really, really interesting trend. We're seeing it in a small amount now, but I think as this continues to go on, it will be very important. I also think it's going to be funny, and this is 100% my personal opinion, but I have traveled a lot in my life, and I always bring back gifts for people. But with the cost of luggage increasing, even when I can travel again, I am actually buying stuff on Amazon from Thailand in the United States to give my family as gifts. It's like, here's these amazing rice crackers. Yes, I brought them back for you. No, I just ordered them on Amazon from Banana Joe. So I think that will also be very interesting. And last but certainly not least, I think that the average individual entrepreneur is becoming much, much more data-driven. We've had time to learn about statistics and about how numbers in business work. And so I think we are going to see a rise in rapid design and rapid business scaling because the individual seller is learning so much more about data and how to use data to grow their businesses. So I think the time for small to medium enterprises is right now. This is something that I think will be absolutely incredible in the next 5 years is the rise of these businesses. The one person down the street who found a really great product, I see them being the next most amazing seller on Amazon, which wasn't the case before. Right now, our third-party marketplace, which means all of the sellers that we have from around the world that sell on Amazon, are growing the fastest of any section. This is something that is going to be absolutely unstoppable in cross-border. One person with passion, dream, and the guts to have a little bit of a risky investment the first year, those are the people that are going to be making it in the next waves of cross-border e-commerce.
พูดถึง cross-border e-commerce ว่าจะ evolve ไปยังไงเนี่ยนะฮะคือตอนนี้เนี่ยสิ่งที่น่าสนใจคือมันเอาประเด็นแรกก่อนคือมันง่ายขึ้นเยอะมากเปรียบเทียบกับสัก5 ปีที่แล้ว5 ปีแล้วเนี่ยจะมีความซับซ้อนมากกว่านี้แล้วก็เชื่อว่าจะง่ายขึ้นไปอีกด้วยนะครับโอเคในช่วง2 ปีที่ผ่านมามีโควิดไอ้เรื่องของโลจิสติกเนี่ยมันเป็นแฟกเตอร์ที่อาจจะควบคุมได้ยากนิดนึงแต่ว่าตอนนี้มันก็เริ่มดีขึ้นนิดนึงแล้วนะครับเรื่องโควิดแล้วก็คนก็สามารถที่จะเข้าใจถึง process ของการที่แบบโอเคฉันเป็นผู้เล่นรายเล็กเนี่ยจะทำยังไงให้เราอยู่ในเชนของ supply chain ของโลกได้อันนี้ง่ายขึ้นนะครับแล้วก็มีอีกเทรนด์นึงที่น่าสนใจก็คือว่าพอเราเดินทางไม่ได้เราถูกจำกัดการเดินทางเราก็ไม่รู้จะถูกจำกัดอีกนานแค่ไหนเนี่ยสิ่งหนึ่งที่เกิดเป็นเทรนด์ขึ้นมาเนี่ยก็คือว่าเราเดินทางผ่านการซื้อของครับยกตัวอย่างเช่นอันเนี้ยไปญี่ปุ่นไม่ได้ก็ซื้อขนมญี่ปุ่นนะฮะ import มาแล้วก็ซื้อแล้วก็รู้สึกว่าก็เหมือนได้ไปญี่ปุ่นนิดนึงอะไรเงี้ยนะฮะคนเป็นแบบนี้กันเยอะพอสมควรทีเดียวนะครับอีกอันหนึ่งก็คือว่าเรื่องของ data driven อันนี้เนี่ยเป็นแน่นอนเป็น global trend ทุกคนพยายามจะทำเรื่องนี้อยู่แต่ว่ามันมาถึงSME แล้วนะครับ SME ใช้ data เยอะมากแล้วตอนนี้เนี่ยเมื่อ SME มี data เนี่ยเขาจะสามารถทำ product ได้ถูกต้องมากขึ้นนะครับแล้วก็เป็นโอกาสที่ใหญ่มากนะครับคุณเจมี่บอกว่านี่เป็นโอกาสที่ใหญ่มากๆเลยสำหรับธุรกิจ SME ทั้งหมดนะครับ That's all our script but I still have some questions for you if we still have time.
Yeah. I got all day for you.
Yeah. I love this off scripting. Okay, so COVID and the whole world thing, right? Right now, on the day that we recorded this tape, we have this new strain, which is kind of worrisome. This is 2 days before Christmas, right? Yeah. 2 days before Christmas. 2-3 days before Christmas. So we're in this festive mood, but this Omicron thing is very alarming for everyone, I think. How do you see these 2 years of COVID? If anything that teaches you, what do you get out of this big crisis that's still going on?
Well, I'll have to start with what I consider to be the obvious. So I'm an expat in a country where my family doesn't live.
Right.
So over the past 2 years, I see the way that we connect with each other to be so very different. It is something that it seems like, of course, we made jokes about at the beginning of the pandemic. Oh, we have Zoom happy hour. How fun is that? But year after year, with my daughter living in the United States, with my parents in the United States, it's been interesting to try to find ways to connect. And this is something that, not the Amazon actually, but something that Amazon has really been working on. But I am so proud to be part of a company that focuses on those things that really, really do matter as well. As a segue into what cross-border e-commerce looks like in that scenario, we are buying a lot more things online. We are seeing people shift, I think approximately 120% shift towards online just from 2019 to 2020. I think it was April to August to be more precise. But what that means is that people are really, really learning how to shop online. But more importantly, they're learning how to feel comfortable with it. And I think that's actually going to continue because as someone who loves to cook, I mean, I love cooking. I still don't want to go to the grocery store. And what I have found is that all of the products that were offline are now online, including hard to find ingredients. Like finding the right type of cumin here in Thailand was quite difficult for me for a while, partially because I don't speak Thai. So really, really big shout out to translating things into English, because that would help me a lot. Thank you so much. But I think this wanting to find things that are from your home or remind you of things, COVID has really solidified that. And in this shift to online, people they're looking more deeply. It's not just, okay, I want to buy presents that I need to have mailed somewhere, which is, from a North American point of view, very much how online shopping really, really started. It's like, I can't get home to California, so I'm going to order something on Amazon so that it'll just be delivered there. But now people are trying to find the things that remind them of stuff, which I think is so important. We're in a great phase of change. And the reality is, I think we're going to see a very, very similar thing where the patterns of behavior won't change. So the way that we approached public health, the way that we approached community sanctions, actually, especially in the United States, I can't speak for everywhere because I'm mostly in the United States, those things didn't change. We did have the roaring 20s after that. So I'm looking very forward to that part. But I think a lot of the habits that were established between 1918 and 1920 stayed the same in the way we became consumers, the way we consumed information. And I think we'll see the same thing with COVID. The way that we shop, the way that we use information, and the way that we coordinate with each other, I think that will stay even after we move past the initial pandemic. And while I am no virologist, I am an armchair academic at best. I am worried about the new strain as much as everyone else, but I have so much more faith in vaccines. What I have seen, I really appreciate globally the response and the information sharing. I think the changes to the scientific community are going to be incredible.
One thing I really think that we should take out of this is that a lot of behavioral change from COVID, especially online shopping and online everything, will not go back to the same. Because people find this way much better, even though we don't need to wear masks one day, hopefully next year or something.
May the universe hear us.
We might still continue to do the grocery shopping online because it's much easier than strolling through the, right? And one thing is that definitely going to happen is online meeting. These days, even though we can meet in person, I was like, no. I'm not going to go through 1 hour traffic to meet you. Just Zoom me and talk for 20 minutes and then it's fine. I think this will like stick for forever. I mean, we will meet in person only when we really need to, right?
Right.
Like doing this shooting. And there's also another one interesting thing is that there's a lot of people that change their perception about online. Online banking.
Yes.
My mom, she never have this apps in her phone, right? She needs to go to the bank, and she needs to see that number printed on the book bank, which
feels good.
I don't have any book bank at all. I mean, I don't have any. So, and when the pandemic comes, and my mom said, please teach me, but I still don't trust this banking thing. But these days, she don't go to the branch anymore, even though she can. Right, and she said, this is very convenient. I can do everything. And I said, see, this is what people have been doing for a while. And like this, I think she's never going to go back to the branches again. And everything changed kind of like forever. Right now, my shopping time is midnight.
Yes, same. Yes, exactly.
It's my winding down ritual, and shopping.
Exactly.
Which is very interesting. I mean, and it changes a lot of stuff, and we do. We might have some misses on other online, like wrong size or wrong color, but I think we're learning very fast. Right now, my online precision ordering is like 99%.
Yeah. Aren't you amazed with yourself at how much better you are at understanding what people are actually saying?
Yeah.
That is, I find many, many, many moons ago, I was a mental health professional. And so my primary work was in psychology, and looking at the way that people online shop is fascinating to me, because you're having to communicate from a seller through a marketplace to an individual consumer. And that level of communication, even across languages, there's a special way to it. And we are learning about it so fast. I truly wonder, and I'm not I'm not smart enough for this to answer this question, but I would love for somebody to answer the question of what is the rate of change of individual perception during this time? Because we are seeing people having less returns, and is that we help sellers manage returns for that exact same reason, because it's complicated across borders. But that's why we will help you. However, we're seeing lower rates of returns in general. And I know I personally am returning significantly less. And I want to say that it's because I'm getting better, but I also think sellers are getting better at how to describe things. So I see people taking much more accurate measurements. So they're not just saying this model is a small size or this shirt is a medium. It's like, this is a lady's medium t-shirt. It measures, 72 centimeters across. And they're being very, very, very specific, which makes the whole process better. It's like everyone is having this evolution of learning that is fascinating.
Yeah, I do agree, and something like stuff that you put in for decoration, we always have problem with the size, right? Because you don't really know, you don't really you can't imagine how tall like 15 centimeters. But I see these people these days they're trying to compare to stuff that you really know, say a phone.
Yes, one of my favorite ways that I waste time on the internet is through the internet forum Reddit, and they have this long running joke of using a banana for scale. It's like anytime you talk about size, like you hold up a banana next to it. Now, in the United States, they only sell one type of banana. It's the Cavendish. Obviously, in Thailand, there's amazing bananas. Oh, the little ones, so good. But yes, this concept of holding up something next to it and using a banana for scale. Or I especially love when people do staging. It's like, so for the home goods, they will, I'm buying dishes right now, so I'm shopping for a lot of dishes online, but they will put the dishes like in a place setting on a table, and then they will put a chair next to the table, so you get an idea of like, are we talking about a coffee table, a dining table, so you can get this better idea. And I just ordered a lovely set of dishes because of that, and they're the perfect size.
And I can imagine in the future that if we have much advanced technology, which they're coming, right? We're talking a lot about ARVR these days. We probably have very soon an actual working virtual department stores in our bedroom.
There are some really interesting things that different companies are doing on this. There are some organizations in the EU that have piloted some of this for brands, specifically Coca-Cola. But at Amazon, we're looking more at modified searching, actually. So you can get a picture off of the internet, and then you can click on it, like Instagram per se, and then it will show you all of the products that are in it, and then you can go through to those listings to try to bridge your offline searching and bring you into the product catalogs. Now, I personally, I wrote a paper some time ago about the rise of the department store, so I do completely agree with you. And I think it will be especially popular here in Southeast Asia. So of all the places that I've lived, so I've lived in North America, in Europe, in Southeast Asia, of all the places I've ever lived, Thailand is the most mall-centric. But it's because I think the malls are so nice. Like, they are just absolutely lovely. So I think we'll see this sort of rise here in marketplaces in Southeast Asia faster than anywhere else. Even though the technology has already started to be developed, I think it'll be fascinating to see how it works here, and to see our sellers from Thailand taking that into other countries through their marketing systems. That is one of the areas that I just can't wait to see how it develops.
คือก็เราคุยกันนะครับว่าไอ้แลนด์สเคปของการซื้อของการอะไรพวกนี้เนี่ยจริงๆทุกอย่างดิจิทัลเนี่ยมันเปลี่ยนไปเยอะมากช่วงโควิดเหมือนกับตอนที่เป็น Spanish flu เนาะตอน100 กว่าปีที่แล้ว100 ปีพอดีเลยเนี่ยเราก็มีไอ้ crisis แบบนี้นะฮะคล้ายๆกันแล้วก็พฤติกรรมของคนในช่วงนั้นเนี่ยสั้นๆ2 ปีนั้นเนี่ยก็เปลี่ยนไปตลอดกาลเลยกลายเป็นพฤติกรรมใหม่อันนี้ก็จะเช่นเดียวกันนะครับคนก็จะเปลี่ยนมาใช้ทุกอย่างออนไลน์มากขึ้นแล้วแม้ว่าหวังว่าเมื่อโควิดมันจบลงไปเนี่ยเราจะค่อนข้างเห็นเลยว่าพฤติกรรมหลายอย่างจะยังอยู่เหมือนเดิมนะครับการช้อปปิ้ง grocery ออนไลน์แบงกิ้งอะไรพวกนี้เพราะว่ามันเป็นอะไรที่ทำแล้วมันสะดวกกว่านั่นเองนะครับ really last question you have been in Thailand for 6 years right I'm sure you have picked up a lot of stuff both good and bad can you tell us a little bit what do you like about Thai product in general?
Oh, okay. There's so many things. There's some Thai products that I'm just so in love with. And I won't shout out to anyone in particular because I don't think that's nice to everybody else. But one of the things that I truly love is Thai fashion. I believe that some of the most creative designs come out of Thailand. And I think that those designs are very fashion forward. And one of the things that I love, and I know it sounds so cliche at this point, but Thai designers put pockets in women's clothes. That is amazing. That is super rare. So I really appreciate that. I also think that it's very interesting at how fast Thailand will develop new products. So in the really big organizations, you know, the 5 family orgs, like those really big ones, you don't see this level of innovation happening. But at the small to medium enterprise, you see people reacting to the market and developing products very, very quickly, especially in the grocery section. I personally also absolutely in love with the jewelry handicraft in Chiang Mai. I travel to Chiang Mai a couple of times a year and buy quite a bit of jewelry there. I think it is absolutely astoundingly beautiful and so well done. And the variety of artisans is amazing. In Thailand in general, what I see is a bit different than other places, even in this region, is that there's much more focus on individual handicraft. It's like I will make a product that is especially interesting to me because I'm passionate about it. And then I will expand that product. I will respond to the market in a way that makes sense to me. It's like everybody knows how to make something. Everybody does. And I mean, it's more than DIY. It's like it's a professional level of artistry that's astounding. And I think that some of the ministries do a very interesting job to try to work with this too. Like I love OTOP. Whether it is the products or the foods or whatever it may be, I must have bought 100 different notebooks and woven baskets from OTOP because I think they're such incredibly good work. And I love the societal portion of product design here. People are working with those around them to try to develop the right thing. I think that's what OTOP kind of builds upon. And last, but certainly not least, one of the most interesting things to me here is that you see in a lot of other countries this idea that you have to have a company do CSR to support society. It's like you must have a corporate social responsibility organization built inside of your business in order to create change. But here in Thailand, a lot of the sellers and the products that we have, they're naturally integrating their community to help everyone rise up together, whether it's through the means of production, whether it's working with something. So we have something called the Service Provider Network that we have at Amazon, where we find people in Thailand to help Thai sellers grow more. And I think that that's just a really natural part of the way that Thailand views their functions. I mean, obviously I'm not Thai, so this is from an outside perspective, but the way that everyone integrates and works together makes for astounding products, but also makes for really strong communities, which is what's going to make everyone successful. I absolutely adore that about Thailand.
ผมสรุปเร็วๆนะครับคุณเจมี่บอกพูดถึงจริงๆมันก็คือไทย culture แหละที่เป็นเรื่องของการที่เราพยายามจะใช้ความคิดสร้างสรรค์ในการทำของนะครับแล้วก็การมองมุมมองแบบไทยนะผมคิดว่าเป็นสิ่งที่คุณเจมี่เขาชอบนะครับ so I think we have learned a lot today about of course about Amazon global selling in Thailand, what the services are and what is the opportunity, the benefits, and the process, and it seems much easier than I thought. I would say.
I'm so glad.
But yeah, I think that's a good thing, and I think Thai, especially Thai SME will see a huge opportunity in doing this. So thank you very much, Kun Jamie Brennan, head of Amazon Global Selling Thailand, for today that you share a lot of stuff that very, I think it's very fruitful for all of us. Thank you. ขอบคุณครับ
Thank you for having me today. It has been an absolute pleasure. I really, really appreciate it, and for the chance to talk to your audience, who are some of the best and brightest of Thailand. Thank you so much.
Thank you. ขอบคุณครับขอบคุณครับ
True Digital Park ศูนย์กลางเทคและสตาร์ทอัพที่ใหญ่ที่สุดในอาเซียน